What is spin selling? The name spin selling comes from the highly influential book with that name titled by Neil Rackham, originally published in 2000. Spin selling was developed following the careful observation by sales experts of 35,000 sales calls. Through this observation, it became clear that the quality of questions asked by a salesperson were key to the success of a sale. The right questions could speed up the process, whereas the wrong questions could stall it or even halt it completely. More than 90% of Fortune 500 companies use it to train their sales force. Most large account selling is done using the SPIN method. The term SPIN is an acronym of 4 different types of sales questions designed to bring a prospect into interest and through to a sale. While doing this research, it set out to answer a question which was troubling most sales heads. The question was, are there special skills required to sell large accounts? Or are selling skills the same in small and large sales? The initial companies were Xerox and IBM. Based on the findings, a new model was developed called SPIN. See, in successful sales call, the question is, who does most of the talking? Buyer or seller? In successful sales, the buyer does most of the talking. You get the buyer to ask questions to him and get him to talk. It wasn't any questions, but questions asked in a sequence. But prior to that, you need to research your target clients. Various assumptions. So things to learn about potential clients. What should our research strategy be? So the 3 things to learn about potential clients are firstly the needs, second the objectives, and third the expectations. Situation questions. The first of the SPIN questions. The first line of questioning should be about learning about the prospect and where he/she stands, and the SPIN situation questions help you do exactly that. These questions will depend on your product and be related to what pain points they are going through. Situation questions are usually asked during the first stages of the sales process. Note that this section is beneficial only to you, and the prospect gains nothing from this line of questioning. Make sure to spend as little time as possible here. Ask them generic questions which can be learned beforehand, and you will only annoy them. Questions of this type ask about facts, exploring the buyer's present situation. You can't sell without them. Who benefits most from these questions, buyer or seller? The more SQ in a call, the less likelihood of success. Most people ask a lot of situation questions than they should. Ask situation questions very economically. Take a look at this chart, which gives a definition, examples, impact, and advice. See the advice. Eliminate unnecessary situation questions by doing your homework in advance. The next is problem questions. The other 3 types of questions are extremely powerful and are the foundation of the SPIN model. And those are problem questions, implication questions, and need-payoff questions. These are about the client's present state, dissatisfaction, difficulties, and problems. Example, how satisfied are you with the present system? What prevents you from achieving that objective, etc. Most experienced salespeople ask more problem questions than inexperienced ones. Take a look at the chart once again, which defines problem questions, gives examples, its impact, and its advice. And the advice is think of your products and services in terms of problems they solve, not details or characteristics. Implication questions. After identifying the pain points your prospect is going through, ensure that they understand the negative consequences of this problem if it isn't dealt with. Using implication questions, you can add weightage to the seriousness of the issue and eventually drive home the point that the needs outweigh the cost of the solution. Implication questions are arguably the most important questions in spin selling, for it gives the sales rep valuable information about what the company is going through and how they are handling their pain points. For this very reason, sales reps are advised to concentrate more on these questions over the others. Once again, these are the most powerful of all questions. Spin research pointed out that top salespeople introduce products and services or solutions very late in the discussion. This was true across all industry. The question is, why do you think this is the case? Inexperienced people do not link problem and solution. Questions about effects or consequences of a buyer's problem is called implication questions. Take a look at the definition of implication questions, examples, impact, and advice. See the impact, the most powerful of all, and the advice. Hardest to ask, plan before you ask. The fourth, the need-payoff questions. The last line of questioning will help bring forth your product's benefits as a solution to your prospect's problems. Use need-payoff questions to put your product in favorable light, which will help squash any negative opinion the prospect might have. Need-payoff questions help grab the prospect's attention to the problem you're offering and the way from the problems. And these questions get the prospect talking about the benefits your product has. Take a look at this chart, which gives the definition, examples, impact, and advice as far as need-payoff questions are concerned. Take a look at the impact. Positive impact creates the right conditions for selling, and advises use these to get the buyers to tell you the benefits. Now, coming to the spin sequence, review the following points. Not to ask too many questions. Try to understand the client's underlying needs, and in small sales, suggest solutions to the client at this time. In large sales, implication questions help both the seller and the client assess how serious the problems are. Need-payoff questions to determine the value of usefulness of solving the problem. Developing spin questions. Identify either products or services you want to sell. Assume that you have just 2 visits with your new client to build the foundation of your long-term relationships. Write down some of the questions you want to ask to clarify your client's situations. Or you can form a pair with a colleague, and one will be the seller who will ask the questions to the client. The other will be the client who will make up answers. Develop an inventory of questions for each of the remaining levels. Create 1 to 3 potential problems the client faces. Write down some problem questions that each would ask to uncover each of the problems that have been anticipated. Write down some of the possible implication and need-payoff questions that might flow from his or her line of questioning. In conclusion, overall in spin selling, the situation and problem questions are used to garner information about the prospect and what problems they are facing. This is something you want to find out, and by doing research beforehand, you can reduce the number of questions here so that you don't tick off the prospect with the usual humdrum questions and make more time for the next two sections, which are the most tricky and important parts. The implication and need-payoff questions are quite arguably the most important aspects of spin selling. This is where the prospect finds out how serious her problem is. These two aspects still require a lot of time and effort because they involve making the prospect understand the seriousness of the problem and how your product can help solve this. Some of the lessons that we learn is to sell well, you must plan well. Spin model requires you to invest in planning. Use spin as a planning tool rather than a magic pill. Building a problem-solving orientation. Think of products in terms of problems they solve. Having the right mindset. Finally, you never persuade clients of anything. Clients persuade themselves. You have to feel their problems just the way they feel them. You have to sit on their side and look at issues from their point of view. Thank you.